The president threatening to pull federal funds from lawless Democratic cities that have faced weeks of protest, including Portland, Seattle, Washington, and New York. The plan not sitting well with New York's Governor Andrew Cuomo slamming President Trump during a conference call. Listen to this.
Look, the best thing he did for New York City was leave. Good riddance. Let him go to Florida. Be careful not to get COVID. COVID ambushed New York due to Trump's negligence. He is the cause of COVID in New York. Changed his residence to go to Florida. Why? He can't come back to New York. He can't. He's going to walk down the street in New York. Forget bodyguards. He better have an army if he thinks he's going to walk down the street in New York. No, New Yorkers don't want to have anything to do with him, and he knows it.
Joining me now, Trump Organization Executive Vice President, son of President Donald Trump Jr. Don, your reaction.
Listen, I think it's pretty laughable when you have Andrew Cuomo, who by any medical metric had the worst performance of the coronavirus. That's before you get into him putting thousands of the elderly back into nursing homes, when the only thing we knew about corona was that the elderly and those with pre-existing conditions were the people most susceptible to it. The level of incompetence in New York is exactly why people are fleeing. The level of incompetence from this governor, he's literally number 50 out of 50 states by any bad metric in his response to the coronavirus. But because he'll give nice quotes like that to a mainstream media that hates Donald Trump, you know, they're going to give him airtime and pretend as though he had a success. He talks about Florida. Florida has a larger population and a more elderly population than New York, and yet they have 1/10 the death rate of incompetent Cuomo. Now you saw last night in the New York Post the statistics for all of this incompetence that he's been trying to hide as it relates to the nursing home and many other decisions. Now, magically, that public information is not going to be available until November 5th, coincidentally right after the election. I really hope that real people watching this stuff don't buy this, because I don't know about you. I understand the Democrat Party is the party of participation medals, but being number 50 out of 50 in dealing with a pandemic is not an accolade I'd want to be running on, but that's what this is, and they're trying to push him for future aspirations.
And on that note, because the Democrats couldn't get on board with extra rescue money, extra stimulus, the president stepped up with an extra, through an executive order, $300 per week for unemployment benefits, because the $600 disappeared at the end of July. And it was Governor Cuomo who dragged his feet in stepping up and signing up so unemployed New Yorkers would get that extra money. I digress. You raised the issue of Florida, and I'm going to tie this to the new Fox News polls. But in Florida, President Trump is still trailing in an average of polls in that state. This is a Republican-led state by the governor, and it's where Mar-a-Lago is. The president and the family spend a lot of time there, but Joe Biden is still leading by 3.7 percentage points over President Trump in Florida, according to the Real Clear Politics average. Why? How do you change that?
Honestly, I don't put much faith in polling these days, unfortunately. The reality is you've seen what these Joe Biden voters are doing across the country, what these Democrat voters, they're rioting, they're looting, the cancel culture that they push on anyone that pushes a conservative value. I honestly just don't think that people are going to be honest with any of these people. You've seen the economic results that the Trump administration has delivered for this country, negating decades of incompetence, bringing back manufacturing, unlike Joe Biden, who between his support of NAFTA, TPP, permanent trade status for China in the World Trade Organization, destroyed the American manufacturing, destroyed the American middle class. These are incompetent Democrat policies that, again, the media won't call out, but I had to. I mean, I literally wrote a book because in my 4 months of lockdown, I started analyzing all of the decisions of a half a century of Joe Biden's career. I mean, think about it. They're telling you now he's going to fix things. Now he's going to do it. Why do you wait a half a century, 50 years, to actually deliver for the American people when the policies that he's actually voted on, the policies he's actually pushed so heavily, did more to build China than they ever did for the United States.
I'm still going to ask you about some more polls because we've got new Fox News polls out that show Biden ahead in 3 states that President Trump won in 2016. So if you look at them, Joe Biden is leading the president in Arizona, North Carolina, and Wisconsin. But at the same time, there's room in all 3 states for improvement. More voters approve of the president's job performance than back his reelection. How does the campaign convert those people who have a higher approval rating for his job but say they aren't going to vote for it? That's where the rubber has to meet the road for the campaign.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't think the margins are what they say they are there, but that doesn't mean we don't have to work very hard. I mean, we are in an uneven and a very unfair playing field. When you have a mainstream media that's, 95.5, liberal, pushing all of those causes. So we have to work that much harder, that much more effectively. We're going to be on the ground. I'm basically on the road for the next 64 days. I know other members of my family are, and I know my father's going to do that and bring that message to the American people directly because the media is not going to do it for us.
Yesterday in North Carolina, the president encouraged North Carolina voters or residents to vote twice. Listen to this. I want to get your reaction.
So if you have an absentee ballot, or as I call it, a solicited ballot, you send it in. But I would check it in any event. I would go and follow it and go vote. And if it's not tabulated, you vote. And the vote is going to count.
Don, the New York Times immediately out with a headline that was on its front page this morning when I got up at 2 a.m. Talking about Trump encourages people in North Carolina to vote twice. It's illegal.
Well, of course they do that. And, they know he's doing shtick, but he's pointing out some of the obvious flaws. You have special elections that happen in New York State that 60 days later, they don't even know what happened. Magically, you've seen how this happens. The Republican wins. Oh, look, we found a box of thousands of ballots, just one more than we needed to actually win, and they're all Democrat. What's going on with these systems is a disgrace, and I'm not the only one saying that. Jerry Nadler is on the record saying that in New York. We know that this is a failed system, this sort of the blind ballot system where we're going to mail 360 million people in America a ballot. We're going to hope that they still live at their former address. I had a friend who's the lieutenant governor. Her daughter lives in New York. She got 4 ballots to her apartment for the race that I was talking about earlier. 4. None of those people live there anymore, but I'm sure everyone's going to be very honest and not fill them in. Now, absentee balloting, we're okay with. Absentee balloting, where one person in a system that's already up and running and has been in many cases for many years, like Florida, you request it. You have an ID. It comes to your address. You then fill it in and send it back. We're 100% fine with that. But this notion that you're going to send out 360 million ballots to everyone in America and hope that there's not flagrant fraud is absolutely insane. So I think he's pointing out the hypocrisy of that, and we've seen what's happened in these elections lately.
Before we go, the hair do, hair don't controversy. I want to get your reaction. This goes right to your book. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi says she was set up after being caught on camera inside a California salon, not wearing a mask. The salon owner denying a setup, saying she's now getting death threats. This goes right to your book about liberal privilege. It's called Liberal Privilege, Joe Biden and the Democrats' defense of the indefensible. Your reaction?
Well, it's typical. I mean, this is exactly what goes on with the Democrats. They set rules for others that they don't have to follow themselves. I've said, Nancy Pelosi is the Marie Antoinette of the 21st century, whether it's that, and then trying to blame the store owner because Nancy wanted to violate the rules, because she wanted to break the rules, because she won't play by her own set of rules. It's somehow magically the store owner's fault. I mean, the gall is I mean, I don't know whether to be upset or impressed. I mean, it is that ridiculous, but that's how out of touch the Democrats are. That's why I wrote this book, because the media has refused to talk about the things that would be disqualifying if Donald Trump did them, that Joe Biden has done for a 50-year incompetent career.